With big budget cuts before their final and much shorter season, does Superman and Lois premiere season 4 in a way that bodes well for a strong finish? I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. The IMDb synopsis for Superman and Lois season 4 episodes 1 and 2, which dropped on the same day, reads, Superman is locked in a brutal battle with Luthor's monster. Lois and the boys race against time to save General Lane. And in episode 2, it reads, Lana and Sarah join the fight against Luthor, who starts making moves in Smallville. Jordan and Jonathan butt heads over an important decision. They mask what's going on well there. The promotional material, the interviews leading up to this show, they do put out there, and if you couldn't tell from the cliffhanger of the last season, we're getting into telling the death of Superman story. I mean, Doomsday is basically what this weird clone double of Superman has mutated into and become, and it was clear at the cliffhanger that's where we're headed. It wasn't super for sure based on the cliffhanger, we're in the middle of the battle, that Superman is going to die, but I mean, that's been out there enough that I feel like I can at least mention, yes, Superman is going to die, and that's not really a spoiler at this point. And really, it's how they handle that is worth watching, not whether or not it happens. The basic vibe of this thing, does this still feel like the same show with all these budget cuts? I think that it does. They are, as I said, doing the Doomsday fight and the death of Superman on a TV and, at that, a CW TV budget. And so how do you do that? Yes, there was some impressive effects shots at the end of last season, but I was thinking, man, after seeing what Zack Snyder did with the Doomsday fight, and even in some animated movie iterations, it's like, I don't know how you can make good on this. And the way that they do that, the way that they bring this up to sit nicely right alongside all those other versions of the Doomsday Death of Superman story, is by leaning into the drama and leaning into the people on the ground. Now, yes, there is action. There are bursts of action. They look great, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But they really have the opportunity because of what this show has been about. It's been a family drama, investing in these relationships with the small family of Lois and Clark and their two boys, but also friendships that connect to that family, leaning into those like we just haven't seen in previous movies and even in the comic books. At least in a given comic, it's not that usual. Of course, you can develop those relationships over many, many years, but as far as getting this kind of concentrated focus on relationships, that has been unique to this version of Superman and Lois, even compared to the 90s Lois and Clark show, which had more comedy and stuff and treated itself more lightly than this show has. So they really leaned into the drama. They leaned into what people were feeling on the ground, knowing that Superman is out there battling Doomsday in a place that they can't see at the moment. And in all of that, because of what they had to leverage and lean into, I cried more frequently here than in Batman vs. Superman, which I was like sobbing the first time I saw Batman vs. Superman, and I think even in subsequent viewings, I've cried quite a bit during the climax of that movie. But here, I was crying more frequently. I don't know if I was crying harder or just as hard, but certainly more frequently, because there was more to lose. If you look at the versions of this story that have been told in the past, it's pretty much always when Superman and Lois are just about to become like a really serious couple, or they just recently have become a serious couple. This, I think, is the first time this story has been told where they're already married, and certainly the first time it's been told where they've been married for like 17 years, over 17 years, and they've got two teenage boys. They have this rich family life that they've been living, and that is also what is at stake. Losing that, having that shattered and broken apart. There was so much more to lose in this version of the Death of Superman story than there has ever been before. Those losing Superman or Clark, they're not just admirers or colleagues in the Justice League, co-workers as it were, or co-workers of the Daily Planet, or friends. Yes, there was those kinds of things in play, but man, these were his wife and his boys. This is the most tragic depiction of the death of Superman, in my opinion, largely due to editing choices like some beautifully sad music playing during flashback scenes, reminding us of Clark's relationship with Lois and their boys. Just clips, kind of a clip show from the last 3 seasons, but really wonderfully chosen. And it just had a powerful effect on me because of my investment in the show up to this point and just the existence of these relationships. Budget cuts led to the final season being shorter and with fewer returning cast members. And this, I think, improved the show so far in what I've seen. Namely, the fewer returning cast members. A criticism I had of the last season was too much time being given to characters outside of the Kent family. I didn't like the Lana divorce storyline with her and her ex-husband after the divorce developing new love interests that we're kind of expected as an audience to be invested in and care about. I didn't care about those at all. It was kind of a bummer to watch them play out because I really wanted to see reconciliation by the end of the series between Lana and her now ex-husband. I don't know that that's possible in the few episodes they have left. It would be wonderful, but there'd be a lot of mess and collateral damage to try and make that happen at this point with the new relationships they've invested in. But anyway, at least those threads are dropped and being ignored. They are not the focus. They've just vanished. And John Henry and Natasha Irons, I like them as characters, but they spread the dramatic focus and the character investment of the show way too thin for me. And they are also absent in these first 2 episodes, and I think it serves the story much better to have them gone and to give all the focus, all the screen time to this core family and the few close friendships and connections with this core family that we really were investing in at the very beginning of the show. Lana and her daughter are still in the story, which I like because their relationships with the Kent family is important. Lana's daughter with Jordan and Jonathan, those are important friendships there, and especially Lana's relationship with Lois and Clark, and who she's known since they were kids. So it's wonderful that she's still in the mix. Sam Lane also still in the mix, but more so far as a story device than having his own thread. And I think that's also good, but I wouldn't mind him getting some more focus in future episodes, specifically in his role as Lois's dad, as the grandfather of Lois and Clark's boys. I think there's been some great stuff with that. And I would think that they would, before this season is done, give some proper attention and time to that. Even with, though, I should say, all the drama that I'm mentioning, which is really what the show is about, there's still action peppered throughout. But it serves the story rather than feeling like it's there to keep action fans happy, There were some episodes early on in the show that every once in a while it felt like, well, this is for those husbands that, are getting bored of all the romance and the family drama, and they just want some mindless action or whatever. I don't know if the action has ever been mindless in the show, but there's been some stuff that I'm like, oh, I feel like this is just, we need some action beats in this episode, so it's not all drama. But this time, no, all the action serves the drama, serves the stakes. So I was very satisfied in that regard. In short, this is still, I think, the family drama with bursts of serious superhero action that it's always been. And it's just as strong as ever for all of those things, even as it falls short here and there. So let's get into that a little bit. As far as the performances, they were a mix, in my experience, of powerful and unconvincing, and usually in scenes of grief. For some actors, it takes time and the right atmosphere on set to summon real tears and to truly sob like they should for scenes of this kind of grief. When you're filming a movie, usually you have more time to really, make an extended period, maybe a whole day, just about this scene dealing with this grief, and the actors can kind of stay in that zone. And but on a limited CW, especially TV budget and schedule, I do have to say I'm genuinely impressed by performance moments given by Elizabeth Tulloch as Lois, Alex Garfin as Jordan, and Michael Bishop as Jonathan. Probably the best and most genuine, heartbreaking stuff from them on the show yet was in these first 2 episodes. But there was noticeable inconsistency when switching camera angles at times, where in one shot Garfin would look red-eyed and tear-stained, and in another his face looked dry and his eyes clear. And that's sometimes the result of them shooting the scene with one camera from one angle, and maybe the actor's like really, when they're in that setup, really into it and stuff. And then who knows, maybe they have a lunch break, they reset the cameras and stuff, and they say, okay, now we're going to do the same scene again, but the camera's over here. And then they'll edit the two bits of footage together to make a cohesive scene. Well, the problem is if the actor is not able to be in the same space emotionally in both of those times of filming, then you're going to see or maybe pick up now and then on some inconsistency, and that's what I think I was seeing here. I mean, it would go from sometimes an actor giving what seemed like the performance of a lifetime at one angle to presenting something that felt only half in, at least by comparison, at another angle. So again, I'm impressed given the limitations of a tight TV filming budget, but the limitations do show themselves, and it sadly takes me out of the moment every now and then. So it's both some of the best performance moments in the history of this show, and yet practical limitations, I think, keep it from being all that it could be. This show has shown us new kinds, I think, of dramatic stories that can be told in superhero television. And I hope that when the DC movie universe being relaunched has run its course years from now, which is, I think, a big part of the reason why this show has been cut short, is to kind of pave the way for like a singular vision of live action DC stuff. But that's a whole different topic. So when they've done their thing and it's lasted as long as it's going to last, and we eventually cycle back around to, maybe some TV projects, I hope that years from now, another show like this about Superman or other DC characters might be possible that really leans into drama, family relationships, other kinds of relationships, with fewer limitations in the production, so we can really get a premium experience all across the board in acting and visual effects, all those kinds of things. I think that this show has wonderfully cast a vision for what could be, even as it's delivered some great things on its own. I'll talk about that more maybe when I do a wrap-up of the whole series. Stunts and visuals. The Doomsday stuff is the strongest I've ever seen from a CW show, and stronger than some bigger streaming network show effects can be. Those scenes are not greatly extended, but when they show up, I found them satisfying despite representing such an iconic and storied battle where you would expect a lot. I still found them satisfying. Other effects, though, like takeoffs in flight, landings from flight, laser beams, all felt more like what I would expect from a CW show. Not glaringly bad, but not ambitious feeling either. Just like, okay, we're just going to do this as quick and simply as we can. That said, some wire work was used in a couple scenes that could easily have been cut from the production. It would have simplified production a ton, but it added something special dramatically. Like one example is a scene where Jonathan confronts Luthor and is barely containing his rage, and he's hovering just a few inches off the ground as he glares at Luthor, just inches between their faces. And it conveyed, because he was hovering like that, it conveyed the bottled power and anger so well, and it just felt so generous, knowing what this, roughly what this show's kind of budget constraints must be. So the show continues with these two episodes to look like it has up until now, which is to say, punching above its weight and doing some surprisingly impressive and ambitious things, but still unable to hide its CW DNA all the time, unfortunately. As far as themes, grief really doesn't have the room to breathe enough in the aftermath of Clark's passing to be a very realistic depiction. Maybe we'll see some different stages of grief play out in different ways going forward. I think there's a better chance of that now that these two episodes are done. But really, it was in the moments leading up to Clark's death, and at the moment that his family realizes he is dead, where there are some powerful images highlighting the value of family and marriage, and specifically when these relationships are invested in with uncompromising, undying commitment. They flash back to some beautiful ups and downs, especially as they relate to Lois's recent battle with cancer. And I was reminded several times during these flashbacks, while I was just welling up with tears, that dang it, yes, these relationships in our lives are worth fighting for, even when they are marred by conflict, when they are disappointing and not what we hoped they would be, when there are other realities of just living as broken people in a broken world. These relationships are absolutely worth fighting for, and they are more beautiful for having fought to keep them and to nourish them. So, I want to hug my wife and my boys after watching episodes like these of this show. And that's always a really worthwhile thing for entertainment to accomplish. Okay, no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, man... if you can handle it, wait. Before watching this premiere, you forgot how much you love this show despite its flaws. And having to sit through commercials is brutal. You know you're getting this whole show on Blu-ray. You're going to start collecting them probably by putting them on your Christmas wish list this year. So if you can somehow wait, then do it. Because once you've watched these 2 episodes, you are going to be roped in for the rest of the season and all of its commercials until it has played out. Speaking of which, stay tuned for my review of the season 4 and series finale, which I plan to give in early December, where I also plan to reflect some on the entire run of the show. So you can hopefully look forward to that. This one is rated TV PG. I'm guessing that would be for violence and some blood and mild language. And those are all of my thoughts for now on Superman and Lois Season 4, Episodes 1 and 2. Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. The lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate Dan Excel, Gabriel Stinson, Olin D. Branham, Winston Crutchfield, Lee Bray, Joel Nelson, Jake Berry, and Michael Cottrell. Thank you for supporting me and SBP and CGC. And now to all who hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Want to hear your name in song? Then check out our page on Patreon. All right, I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making so much of my content possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining at patreon.com/Spirit Productions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. It is time again for Christian Geek Central's annual Game Save event, fundraising for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which provides free treatment for children facing life or death circumstances and shares its cutting-edge, life-saving research with hospitals all over the world. You're still welcome to join the Game Save team by following the link in the description below. Once again this year, I'm drawing attention to our team's fundraising by performing a 24-hour marathon of video gaming that I will stream live on youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral beginning 6 a.m. Arizona time on Saturday, November 9th. You can donate or get more info by clicking on my fundraising page in the links below, where you will also find incentives and rewards for doing so. For $5, you can choose a topic for me to share my sometimes overly strong opinions on during my live stream. For $10, you get the previous reward and a download code for a free copy of the Spirit Blade Special Edition audio drama. For $20, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a game for me to play during my November 9th live stream. Pick a favorite or torture me with something terrible or rage-inducingly difficult. For $30, you get the previous rewards and can choose a song for me to sing during my live stream. Pick an old favorite of yours or just make me humiliate and torture myself with something no one wants to hear. And for $50, you get all the previous rewards and a download code for every MP3 product at spiritblade.com. That's a $90 value. On top of that, I have set fundraising milestones that will unlock fun or weird happenings as I reach them. At $200, I'll have a free download day for everyone who visits spiritblade.com on November 16th. And as my total goes beyond $200, I'll unlock increasingly more content for that free download day. And depending on how far beyond $200 my fundraising goes, during my November 9th live stream, I will cover my face in peanut butter and jelly while talking about horror movies, put on a pair of Frozen socks and a Frozen t-shirt at the same time, shoot water up my nose with a turkey baster, and have my wife Holly play a video game with me for 30 minutes. And if I reach a personal fundraising total of $500 or more, I will schedule a 6-hour bonus live stream before the end of the year to either try and finish Dragon Age Inquisition as my bitter old wizard Eldarest, or start a new roleplay focused playthrough as, well, that's a secret for now. Finally, if I reach my $500 goal by the end of Thursday, October 24th, I will do a 4-hour Get Good live stream before the end of the year, playing a frustratingly difficult game in my collection. Probably another NES Castlevania title. Now, there are some stipulations and time limits on those rewards and milestones, so quickly follow the link below to my fundraising page for all the details. This year will mark 10 years since our first gaming-themed charity fundraiser for kids in great need of medical care. I hope you'll be a part of celebrating that and helping me and the Christian Geek Central Game Save team do some good for some kids who really need it. Then please join me at youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral for my 24-hour marathon starting at 6 a.m. Arizona time on Saturday, November 9th. Hope to see you then.
Oh my gosh. This is all kinds of wrong.